All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn. This makes 3 episodes, I think, this week. We are live tonight, Thursday, April 6th, and you can see I am with our good friend, Mr. Wolf, back joining me. Video's a little bit choppy, but we got him on audio. So just like the other night, we talked to Matt Thomas. I mean, we had no video on the second episode with him, but you could hear him, and that's the most important part. But first, I'd like to welcome Mr. Wolf back to the show. You've been here so much, we should just call this Stu and the Wolf.
Stu and the Wolf. Good evening, Stu. Thanks for having me back on. Glad to be here. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, great to have you here. And boy, we got a filled up show. You know, we were talking about doing it last night and didn't work out. We said, okay, let's do it tonight. And like always, this we repeat this all the time. We pretty much have to wait till the day of a show, and there's no shortage of content. So we're going to talk
None whatsoever.
We're going to talk a couple topics today, but we have a new one that's being added. Hold on a second. We have a new one that's being added because of the press briefing today. So, and I'm probably going to talk about that more in another episode coming up. I'm going to try to get my good buddy Scott Mann back on, who created Operation Pineapple, to talk about the press briefing today. Because, you know, Wolf, you probably saw it. I don't know, but they released this, the Biden administration released a report on Afghanistan and the withdrawal of Afghanistan. They did a report on themselves and to judge and grade themselves on how the withdrawal went. And man, just one, no one knew this was coming, but two, what a surprise. They did nothing wrong. They're super proud of how it went, and it was all the Trump's fault. Who didn't see that one coming? Did you get a chance to catch up on
everything the administration is? Yeah, everything the administration does is let's blame Trump. It was always his fault. What was interesting is they kept saying that he did not leave a plan. There was no plan left behind. That's not his job to make your plan. This is your administration. You've been in there for a year. Those guys didn't have to wait for Trump to give them a plan. That was up to them in the Pentagon to come up with and develop how they were going to exit. And it was up to the president to define how, under what auspices they were going to exit, and some of the other things that they wanted to make sure happened as they exited. They can't blame this on Trump. Not a chance. What will be interesting to see is how Milley, I don't think he's had a response on this, or he hasn't appeared in the press briefings. So we'll see what kind of questions he gets or comments that he makes based on this.
Yeah, it's this happened about 7 months. It's funny, he did. He said they left us no plan. We looked all over the White House, and there wasn't the withdrawal from Afghanistan for Dummies book anywhere. You know what else he didn't have a plan?
As if they would have followed it if they would have followed it if they had one anyway.
You know what else Trump had a plan on? It was the Keystone Pipeline, like keeping it and leaving it there. But boy, that got shut down, right? Trump didn't leave a plan to say stop the Keystone Pipeline. Trump didn't leave a plan that says start reversing all these executive orders and all stuff. It seems to me the Biden administration did pretty well on their own to do those things, they
screwed them up on their own,
right? To enact a lot of regulations and take away controls that Trump had put in place. They start giving away. I don't think Trump left a plan that said give away all of our strategic oil reserve. There's a lot of stuff the Trump administration didn't leave a plan on, but they seem to be okay. They were kind of big boys. Biden has 47 years doing nothing but serving in Congress and as a vice president. And they seem to be fine figuring that out on their own. But boy, howdy, that Trump had put in it to leave 2,500 soldiers there and everything else. And somehow that they didn't have a plan. So all those generals that were generals and leaders well before Trump administration, much less through the Trump administration and after, President Biden went on air and said they all advised him to do one thing and he did another. So those generals they all had a plan. We know the military does that all the time. The civilian leadership, Biden and his circles of people that tell him what to do, took action, and they dare look at the American people and the press pool today in the White House and say it was all Trump's fault. He didn't tell us what to do next. I mean,
I can tell you 100%. Scott Miller had a plan. He knew what he was going to need to do, whether he stayed or whether he went. I know for a fact that he had an idea and had gamed out that, but after he left, they weren't going to follow or listen to whatever he had developed. No general takes over command without understanding what all of his options in the scenario are.
yeah, you know these folks personally.
Ability, and Miller was a fantastic leader. Yes.
Right. You know these folks personally. You know all these folks. Not only did you serve in the Trump administration, you have served, and I'll just keep it as you've served with a lot of these people, and you know the area well. And to sit there and go up and I don't know what the worst part was. Was the worst part them blaming Trump? I don't think it was. I think it was the second worst. In my opinion, the worst part was saying they were proud of what they did and how it happened. And to sit there and say proud, one, knowing that we lost 13 brave young souls on that day, and when the suicide bomber happened, but worse, just a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, when our buddy Scott Mann and those vets were all in front of Congress testifying, and you had that heart-wrenching gut punch of a testimony by that young Marine, missing legs and arms, who said he had the bomber in his sights as a sniper and could not get clearance to take him out. And the young man just, I mean, I think the whole country just felt the pain from his testimony, whoever watched it, which probably means if to watch it, you couldn't, there's probably a couple channels you shouldn't be watching because they probably didn't show it. But just a couple weeks after that, and to use the word pride and how that was handled, can they get any more disconnected, Wolf, from what is happening in this country than something like that?
Another disconnect, now that you mentioned it, is when John Kirby, who should resign himself, is to never mention public affairs and his service as a PA spokesman for DOD ever again, when he had the audacity to say, we didn't leave that equipment behind. We didn't leave millions of dollars of equipment behind. That's a quote from him. How can he possibly look into that group, can stand up there and say he was a Navy public affairs spokesman, which, as you know, the military's mantra in public affairs is never lie, never lie, never lie. Tell the truth.
You were in public affairs.
As 35 years as a spokesman for the DOD, you betcha, never lie.
And didn't the Taliban just tweet of all things a picture a week ago of like a drone shot or an aerial shot of, like, as far as you can see, equipment lined up that we left, MRAPs, Humvees, everything under the sun. That was literally last week when they tweeted that picture. John Kirby, if anyone could have reinvigorated or brought back to life Baghdad Bob, it was John effing Kirby today.
I promise you, the next time I see John, I will make sure to mention it. It won't be a friendly greeting. I know when we won't part friends or anything. I've worked with John. He's somebody that never missed a camera opportunity, never saw a camera he didn't want to love. It's reprehensible that somebody that made their career at the two-star admiral can come on and act this way. I don't see General Pat, the Air Force spokesman that's there now, I don't ever see him reverting to something like this. No way. Pat Ryder, General Ryder, don't ever see that happening.
Right. Well, like I said, General Milley hasn't said anything, and if anyone has read, or General Donahue obviously hasn't said anything, and I don't know he would because he's still serving. But if anyone, I got to give a plug out. If anyone has read Operation Pineapple Express from Scott Mann, I have a couple copies here. You'll see right there that he sits down with General Donahue and talks to him. And he talks about in there talking to General Milley and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of the military side of the government, or if they're going to be told, shut your mouth and walk the party line. But
More than
a
likely, but you
truly,
know that there's questions are going to be asked.
yeah, truly disgusting show today of them putting out. Like Dana Perino was saying earlier, she was saying that, usually the government, the administration saves till Friday afternoon to release bad news, and being tomorrow being Good Friday, they could have probably definitely done it. And after the Easter holiday floats by Monday, it wouldn't have near as much buzz. But I don't know if it was bravery, balls, or stupidity to come out with it today and just act like, they didn't even act like, well, there were some bad things that happened. If they would have taken an ounce of accountability and say, yeah, we just didn't foresee that. We didn't know. We thought it would go better, whatever. They could have, they probably could have got a little bit of a buy, but it was a complete, like they were above the law and hey, they did an assessment on themselves. That would be like a young NCO, E5, E6, or even an officer doing their own OER and say, you fill it all out. You can sign the senior rater, reviewer, everything. We got you. Just rate yours. How do you think you did this last year? Man, everybody'd be a 1 block. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So hey,
Yeah.
we're going to go on that. We got another two topics more to cover. We're going to talk about the arraignment of President Trump, someone that you worked in his administration of. I want to get your perspective on, which is really the reason why I wanted to have you on. And then we're going to talk about, honestly, the other reason too was the VA's recent, not VA, should I say? I guess that's unfair. I think it's a General Accountability Office review of VA disabilities and some recommendations they're making, I think is the right thing, but you'll definitely correct me. You're closer than I am. So on the arraignment that happened the other day, all the hoopla, $200 million in taxpayer dollars spent to do the security and bring the president up there, and the protests and all that stuff. And then, everyone was waiting for the unsealing of those 34 indictments or charges. And there were some people that were hoping it'd be a ton of stuff that no one knew about. And many people thinking it could just be the same thing cut up 34 different ways. And it seems like it was the latter, and it seems like it fell pretty flat. What is your thoughts and or what are you hearing? Because you have some great connections there.
From what we're hearing, it's looking like they expect this thing to get dismissed out of just pure merit, and that even if the presiding judge doesn't do it, that on appeal it'll just be done because the charges aren't there. In the document called the Statement of Facts, that is the one part you should really read, and there's no there. There's nothing at all that really lists out the specifics of what he's being charged with and what he did to warrant felonies. Should he have gotten a slap on the wrist for doing an oopsie through his financial guys? Possibly. Don't know. Still don't see anything in there that really defines what it was. What I do understand is that for charges, each one being a felony, is based on a set of documents. And that every time he signed it, he basically got another charge. Anything the initial got another charge. So it's like when you go through your documents when you sign for a house. You remember how many times you had to initial and sign all the paperwork? In that one document for how many signatures, every one of those would have brought you a felony charge. That's basically the way they described how this one went. I do know that they're looking forward to standing up to this and seeing how this is going to proceed. The interesting thing is that the continuation isn't until next December the 7th,
or December the 4th. Yeah,
December. Why do they have to wait so long? Does it take 7-8 months to get there? No, I don't think so. What they're trying to do is set the stage for this to be burning in the forefront of people's minds in the month before the beginning of the Republican primaries. That's why they pushed it out this far.
Well, the prosecuting attorney wanted it to be held, and they didn't want the court thing till January, right? So just in the middle of it. But so there are number of things being said in the last 48 hours since this dropped, right? One is that it's a violation of the Sixth Amendment, because he is not being given the due process and being notified of the crimes that he has committed, right? The one thing that came out of all this, besides it just being the same crime cut up 34 different ways, is that they all say it's a felony based on the other crime that it hid. I think is the right term. I'm not a lawyer, but the other crime that it essentially was in lieu of, or was perpetuating or something like that. But there's no announcement of that crime, and they're saying that violates the Sixth Amendment. That he is not being notified of what his actions were, what law he broke. So I mean that's a major thing that could possibly get it tossed. But the other one is, yes, the judge had said before, and this judge has been kind of known. I guess that came out today. The judge's daughter worked on the Biden-Harris campaign. But doesn't means this kid doesn't mean he thinks that way. But I know there's been some talks about him. But he said before that he wanted this to move quickly, and like you said, December is the next hearing, and I think it's kind of an administrative. It's not like I don't remember at the top of my head what it is. It's not like that's when the trial's starting. No. That's just the next hearing, and the judge, his lawyers try to say he doesn't need to be here. Just like, nope, Donald Trump needs to be here for it. So everybody's gonna send up their helicopters and drones. We're gonna watch 7 SUVs go from Mar-a-Lago to the Fort Lauderdale airport or wherever. He's gonna fly. We're gonna watch him land in real time again. We're gonna watch this whole thing all over again in December for him to go in and spend 5 minutes, disrupt all that traffic, that Christmas shopping season traffic in New York City. If people even still go there by then, to have him come in there and just be in front of the cameras again. Yeah, at least the cameras outside. What a waste of taxpayer dollars.
I'll give you a funny aside. As this was occurring the other day, I had a friend of mine who was there watching it out the window as it happened below, and the Secret Service was yelling up at them, "Close that window! Get back inside! Get back inside!" To what was going on down there. So I think it's pretty funny for them to be looking out the window and the Secret Service yelling at them.
Yeah, that's close when they see the whites of your eyes. But I mean, it's obviously there. I think his attorneys are going to file, many petitions and things to get it dropped and this and that and kind of stuff. The sad thing is Alan Dershowitz today came out, I think today or yesterday, right? Who's supposedly a very well-respected lawyer. He's been on the news channels for a while. I know he's kind of turned into somewhat of a never Trumper, if I remember right. But, he came out today but he is an experienced lawyer and said, there's no way he's not going to get, tried and convicted. It's just going to happen. And that could just be him. I mean, it is him speculating, but he's not just your fly by your night shithouse lawyer. I mean, he's pretty well known and has a lot of experience. And I'm not sure of his purpose of coming out and saying that, but he pretty much came out and said, doesn't matter what happens, he's going to get tried and convicted because of who he is.
He's a true believer in the law as, how it should be held up. I think it would really tear him apart if he saw the travesty of justice that this is representing, if it was to go through and actually make it to the trial phase. It shows just how far the U.S. justice system has fallen, that this can be, perpetuated, that this can be happening to somebody. Yet it never happened to a couple of others. You will see a lot of even the never Trumpers are climbing on board saying this is a travesty. But you've got to look at it. They're also thinking of this in their own behalf because they could be next. They could be the next victims of something like this.
It's interesting the number of people from both sides of the aisle, many on the left who said, CNN, all the rest of them the other day when the charges came out, we're talking about how there's nothing to this. But there were many before it happened of saying this should not even be happening because you are setting a precedence, right? Someone could easily, when the GOP gets in total control and people start realizing that George Soros is the greatest cancer ever to infect this country, and people start putting real district attorneys and politicians back in office. I mean, not that there's no shortage of potential crimes and things like that from the Biden family. We're actually seeing it right now. That could be come after for years, right? They could go back after Obama. It just you're setting this precedence of what we see in these banana Republican third world countries of just like, oh, this politician's out, now we're going to go after him, and we're just going to come up with all this. I mean, you would think that the bar that is set for anyone to be investigated and or arraigned and charged should be the same for anyone. And for, just as dumb as it was for Kirby to sit there and say today how proud they were and how there was no, Afghanistan didn't go bad, is just as bad as Alan Bragg coming out yesterday saying, or day before, and saying that, their office takes crimes very seriously and no one is above the law. I'm like, dude, are you the attorney for New York City? Are you kidding me? Like, you could be a district attorney, prosecuting attorney or district attorney for any city, but for New York City, where people are getting shoved on the train tracks, stabbed, beaten, robbed, assaulted all the time, and you just let them out and they come right back again. Just try to tell someone with a straight face that your office takes crime seriously and no one's above the law. It's like, he's mini Baghdad Bob. I mean, it's like there's crimes literally happening right now all around your office, and you're not prosecuting or charging any of these people. It's something, but they are setting a bad precedence. I think the left sees it. You know why? Because the left is seeing now that the GOP is in charge of the House. Look at all these committees they're putting together, and look at these hearings that are happening. I think the left sees that this is not the GOP of years past, where they played along nicely and pacifist and fist bumped each other. This is a GOP that is holding them to task and is not necessarily playing like the old school ones done. That's my opinion. Obviously, you're very connected.
At least on the House side. On the Senate side, yeah. I don't think that's the case. I think they're still under the old GOPE group.
Well, you got Mitch McConnell there, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. You need some of those younger, for lack of a better term, MAGA Republicans to get in the leadership positions in the Senate side to do the same thing, to hold them accountable. As long as you still got the Lindsey Grahams and Mitch McConnells and all them running the show, they're going to keep playing along nice and kowtowing. We've seen it in budget negotiation after budget negotiation. They're not holding the Dems, accountable for what they're saying and doing, and they're not giving it right back to them. But yeah. So let me ask you this though. Why? I mean, I think one thing is making one thing I don't like to see is President Trump going after Ron DeSantis. I know a lot of people don't. I was talking with a good friend the other day. We talk a lot about politics in the morning, usually at the gym and stuff. We're chatting, and I have a speculation, and this could be, maybe I have a red tinfoil hat on or something. You tell me, but in all my, him better than I do. You've known President Trump, but in my watching and observation of him, I have found that even though, yes, he can piss people off and tweet things and whatever, there is not much that he says or does without a purpose and a reason. And, when he said his campaign was being spied on and everyone thought he was batshit crazy, well, he was being spied on, right? They were putting wiretaps in. Everything he has said and done has been for a reason. The guy knows how to play the game and how to spin the narrative. And what I laid all that up to, the fact of this, what's kind of behind my opinion of what may be happening, is that him and Ron DeSantis may have cooked this up. I hope I'm not ruining it for him. This is just my guess, is that they are doing this so the left thinks that they are attacking each other and leaves them alone and lets them just go, because he's not saying nothing super bad. And we saw, Ron DeSantis said as soon as the arraignment happened or the charges happened, said that he was not going to support extradition, right? He could have been like, yep, come get him. I don't give a damn, right? Or
he could have said nothing and said that,
said nothing.
Just let it play out and say nothing.
Right. It's not mine. It's not my thing to take, whatever, and to stay silent. But part of me is thinking, there's no other reason why President Trump would be doing this, except could they be doing this just to, essentially put multiple targets on the battlefield and the enemy doesn't know which one to attack, right? Because they see them fighting each other. I could be crazy.
And that is something that people have said, that the more people that jump into the race, the better Trump comes out on top, because it just splits the DeSantis piece, not his base. It's really his base is what it is, and it only grows stronger. What it ends up doing is fracturing people that may be looking at supporting DeSantis, and I'm just going to say, well, that's just going to fracture more of the people that are on Trump's camp and are on DeSantis's and jump into his. So the more people, he wants more people in the race. He doesn't mind it. Remember, he took down more than 7 folks back in 2016. So it doesn't cause him any concern if there are more people in the race. But it's an interesting note that they may, back behind the scenes, have a case knowing who works for them. I know that several of them don't get along on a person. I don't think they would be so willing to work together or work as cooperatively to make something like this pull off. That said, I do know they all have the same target. They want to save America. They want to support American values. They want to, for lack of a better term, make America great again, even though that wouldn't be DeSantis's take on, exactly how you would say it. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background. Something that's starting to hurt DeSantis is his connection to the Bush family and the others. That is something that's starting to chip away at him, and that is going to take some of the people that are the pro-America types that maybe just don't like Trump because of his attitude, hate the Bushes more. Mm-hmm. So that will drop them from his support. I do know the people that do support somebody like DeSantis absolutely do not support anything like the Bushes or the Rhinos or at all. So if DeSantis thinks that it's cuddling up to the Trump types or some of those on that side of the aisle are going to sadly mistake him.
Yeah, just like I say, it could be a reach. But I can't find any other reason why President Trump would attack, just because he saw it the other day. He was in a rally, right? And when he started hammering him, everyone got real quiet and that kind of stuff. He's not a dummy. I know he's picking up on it. He hears those screams and shouts and applause when he's up there on that stage. And he's got to know that's not the right way. So that's the only reason. That's the only way I can think about. Like, it can't be. He can't really be attacking just to attack him. He has to know it's not doing himself any favors. But boy, just think about it. Let's just for a second think that what I'm saying, what I speculate could be really happening. Imagine they go through this. Remember, Biden has not thrown his name in the hat, right? And the Democrat side, you got crazy Marianne Williamson. Now you got a Kennedy in there. I think that's it. And here we are. The election is November of next year, so we're about 18 months out from the election, and Biden still hasn't said I think he said he's not going to commit until. Did he say August or September or something like that? He said the other day he's not going to make a decision. So, the left and everyone, they're focusing all their attention on something. They focus on these two. They go, oh, Trump's going to get taken out. He's being charged, all that stuff. They've been kind of hammering DeSantis. You got Newsom today in Florida for some reason. I thought he wasn't allowing California state employees to travel to Florida, but all of a sudden he's there today to slam their own governor, right? And then they wait, and then at the last second, they kind of they team up and join and say, hey, it's all good. The base, the followers would be fine with that. If Trump and DeSantis appear on a stage in November of this year and say, we're the ticket, we're the two,
game over,
and we're back in, everyone's gonna be like, cool. If he likes them, I like them. And that's coming from either side, right? If DeSantis,
that's right.
They would, that'd be a powerhouse. I'm just wondering if that's the reason. If it isn't, no one will remember me saying this. If it is, I'll be replaying this show. So,
well, you got to remember, DeSantis is also allowing that bill to go through the House and the Florida Congress that's going to allow him to run and serve as governor. That one has only got a couple more weeks before that has to get pushed through and done before the legislative session is over.
Oh, I didn't know about that. I didn't hear about that.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, that one's slowly making its way. It's trying to be very quietly done. Just last week, they popped the one about the constitutional carry provision that was passed. Alongside it is 26 state. And as they make this other bill through, which they're trying to make it very quiet, it's on its way there. It's being worked. So we'll see.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So I didn't know about the bill to allow him to run and still be governor. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, we'll go. All right. So I guess it doesn't seem like the arraignment is and the charges have are making it. If anything, it's what he's raised $7 or $10 million since that happened. I mean, do you see it giving him any pause or giving the American voter any concern, whether it be base or independent? What is your opinion on that?
46% swing in his numbers since the announcement of the arraignment. It's a huge time, and Biden is dropping down to his near rock bottom numbers, if not passing them. So, and DeSantis is falling not quite as rapidly, but certainly much more than you would expect on something. And it's really making a difference. If that's what they were expecting, to drop him and make him somebody that was unelected. If anything, they were making it so he's cemented by doing this. And if they had gagged him or done something even egregious like that, probably would have accelerated that even more. Not that I could find anybody finding a way to tell Trump how to shut up. I just don't see that happening. And it may be why he's announced early, is because they can't, I believe by statute, they can't tell a candidate you can't talk. And he's turning this into an issue of the campaign because of how they're treating it. And if it's a campaign issue, there becomes something that, he can talk about to get elected. Therefore, how can they gag him? How can they put a gag order on that? I don't see that one passing muster either.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, by him becoming an official candidate, they are interfering with election process by gagging him. And this is this charges and stuff. It's just interesting on the charge, because we didn't even cover the fact that they're saying this is all for campaign election violations, all that stuff. Yet the charges are around a date of April 2017, of which he was already the president by several months. 4 or 3 by the time he swore in, but essentially he had been elected 5-6 months earlier. It doesn't even pass that muster. How can it be an election violation charge when you're saying the acts themselves happened 6 months after the election happened? I mean, just on that, it seems like a judge would throw it out. That it has no merit.
Well, the FEC said yesterday that these instances, these facts that they're putting out there, are not chargeable offenses. That's the Federal Election Commission themselves coming out with that and saying, there's nothing here chargeable. We would not charge Trump under anything that is here.
Huh. That is interesting. Wow. Okay. That seems like that takes more wind out of the sail. But yeah,
that's what I think.
All right.
That's what
on our third topic, so I don't have the articles in front of me, but I know you're aware of them too. So if I misstate some of this, please correct me. But about 2 weeks ago, some people leaked some things that the Government Accounting Office was looking at adjusting, starting in 2024, adjusting veterans' disability payments, which are paid to veterans who have, been found to be lifelong damaged, right? Whether it's losing limbs or whatever it may be, why they served in the military, not even in combat. It's at any time. That if they make roughly as a combined household income, so a veteran and their spouse, husband or wife, make over $175,000 a year, they essentially would get none of their disability. Now, not the veteran.
Correct.
So the veteran's wife could be a nurse, a doctor, an attorney, or their husband, or whatever it may be. Their spouse could be some professional
business owner,
right, that makes $170,000 more a year. And that veteran who may have lost a limb, eyesight, any other ailment you can imagine, all the people you see on the Tunnels to Towers commercials that run every night, right? That they would lose theirs because of their disability payments, their tax-free disability payments, because their spouse made too much. Now I look at that and go, wow, that could be that would be like, hey, honey, maybe we still love each other, but how about we get divorced? So we still live together, but we get divorced or file separately or whatever it takes. And that way I can get, yes, I have a job that pays $50,000 a year plus taxes get coming out, or I can get my 70, 80, 100% disability and have no taxes taken out, what if we split? Or worse, hey, I could work a job, but that job with my spouse's job would throw me over the 125,000. I think is when you start losing benefits, 2 for 1. For every dollar, for every $2 over 125,000 you make, not after taxes, before taxes, right? Every $2 above 125,000 a year that you and your spouse make before taxes, you lose $1 of your disability. Once you hit 170 or 175, you lose it all, which is kind of encouraging veterans who are dealing with maybe who could, a number of them are dealing with a number of issues about getting back in society and being a contributing member of society and doing good and living the life that they've secured by giving up by what they went to war for. And you're almost begging them to say, well, how about you just sit home and don't work at all, because the paycheck you would get with the taxes would, one, either lose some of your money, if not all, or just don't work and get that 80%, 90% disability or whatever it is, and you get it tax free, and just not work and stay home and don't be a productive member of society. Stay home and play Xbox, stay home and drink all day, kick the dog, do whatever, not be out there and be sociable. It's like, what freaking George Washington University freaking intern growing up through the government college grad is now at the GAO that pulled this harebrained idea out of their ass. Did I lose you? Are you there?
Oh, I'm here. I mean, it was just
audio
crackling up so bad I couldn't tell when you had finished. You got me back?
Yeah, I got you back.
Okay, sorry about that. Troy, this is something that I've got to tell you exactly what's going on with this. I will say that Secretary McDonough did step out and say that they would not consider this recommendation by the GAO. He did come out a couple of days later and say that while they appreciate what the GAO is recommending, the GAO would not consider this. Somebody out there, the GAO just doesn't pick something out of the hat and say, you know what, let's go beat up on the VA today, or let's go pick on transportation, or let's go pick up on DOJ. Somebody back there is looking at and has put a bug in their ear to say, how can we reduce the payouts and the benefits that we're sending out to those icky, slimy, crazy veterans that we keep having to send money that we don't give, out to our friends in the deep blue cities. Somebody has said something to somebody at the GAO to make this be even considered. And I say that because I had a conversation with the former secretary at the VA. And he told me that he believes very deeply that this was not something that just kind of slipped out, that this was something that, because of the backlash and the heavy backlash, McDonough had to step out and say, we're not going to do that. We're not going to consider it because it was getting to be pretty heavy. I do know that that's something that will be taken up by the Four Corners, by the Congress, and some others. But the secretary also told me that likely that would never have passed a legal review. Those benefits are set by Congress, and it would take a congressional act in order to anything else that would affect them. So it would, while it's a wild recommendation by the GAO, it just wasn't going to pass into any sense. But it's crazy that they would even put that out there.
Yeah, at this time where we're still dealing with, a crazy number of suicides amongst our military and veterans. Even more, it was gotten worse after the terrible withdrawal out of Afghanistan in 2021 in August. It spiked there, calls to the suicide hotline spiked, and everything else, that they would even, there's a lot of ways to cut, a lot of ways. And you do this while we're shoving billions over to Ukraine, right? You're printing money, and you're sending it, not even by pallets anymore. You're just freaking, sending it by freaking C5 loads full over to Ukraine with no accountability on it, no tracking of it.
And Iran.
and Iran, and then you're just sitting there going, well, we could probably save a few bucks here and there if we just start taking some of their benefits away, because maybe them or their spouse came back and started living the American dream, the same freaking dream that our veterans of World War II and World War I came back to do. They came back to be business owners and politicians and contributing to the local community and society and building this great country that we have. You're saying, well, these veterans, they did well. And by the way, the pay scale is a lot higher now. It's not tough for two people working to be over 170,000. It's not like they're multi-rich millionaires. They're not freaking, master degree top scientists to make that kind of money. All it takes is one of them being in medical and one being in IT, and they probably got that covered, right? And to sit there and think that, so that's to lose everything. So let's take it down a notch. Two people working can easily hit 125,000 a year, right? That's two mid-level kind of jobs. That's not, there's not too many professional jobs that you're not going to hit 60,000 on before taxes. That's when we're not talking after. It'd be different. Maybe you get a little bit more leeway.
Yep.
But before taxes, to hit that and say we're going to start taking your benefits away. I mean, there would be no reason for those veterans to maybe go drive Uber, get a job at the post office, do whatever it is they're going to do. And
two
take up
people
some
working at the
skill
post
work.
office would tap out at about 150 very easily,
Right?
and they
Or
wouldn't
work
have to be senior people.
or going back work for the government, a GS-13, GS-14 married, or a couple GS-13s and a 12 or something. So it's just, again, almost as ill-timed as and not reading the room as Kirby was today, when in the room being this country, right? Or what that Alan Bragg. I mean, just these people are just talking out of their fourth point of contact. They just do not understand. Or they are so disconnected from where the common sense man and woman are today to sit there and look at this and go, what? Why would you even say such a thing? I mean, when you see so many other dollars just being blown away on some of the dumbest things.
Well, can I give you an example? Can I break something here on your show?
Oh, we love when we have breaking news on our show.
Okay, here's something I'll break on you that we're investigating. As you know, my background with my network and stuff and what we're doing on. Something that we're investigating, and without going too much into the details, there's a dentist that has a contract with DHS, and his job is to work on the illegals that are brought to him because they have some kind of malady in their mouth, their teeth, whatever, and they're either in excruciating pain or something like that, and he's got to go in and fix them to a certain standard and get them, back to some semblance of normal while they're in the custody of the U.S. ICE under detention, whatever. This dentist has told me that he got his first payment from the U.S. government, services rendered. He's been doing this not very long. And in his first payment, the payment came from the Department of Veterans Affairs. Even though he's under contract with us to provide this service, his payments are coming through Veterans Affairs. Now, why is that? Again, I went back and talked to some folks of deeper knowledge at VA while we're looking into this, and they said that there is possibly that this is being funded by the fourth wall or the fourth pillar that VA works under agencies, that they can use the VA to provide services. I don't know that there has been any declaration around utilizing the VA for services for illegals that are coming in. And as you well know, and we've talked about before, the hardest thing in the VA to get something done for, the hardest part of your healthcare is dental.
Yep.
If it isn't a direct result of enemy action for dental, it's near impossible to get them to do anything to it.
Yeah. If you have a cavity, if you have a cavity or a tooth that needs pulled and you have no dental insurance, no way, they will do that. They will fix like a bad abscess or that kind of stuff. They're just yanking it. They're not filling it. They're not doing whatever. They'll
Right.
yank it out of your
There's
noggin.
no filling. There's
But
nothing.
that's about the
Tooth
extent
gone.
of it that you can get. Yeah. No, that is pretty shocking, and that is seeing how they have funneled money, and this administration has used different agencies to find to handle things that normally are in their ballywick or purview. I guess if there's this exception under a national emergency like this to do this, it sounds like they're probably abusing that too, especially if they are. But you know what, man? They're probably thinking no one will catch us, and if they do, by the time they file a suit and do that stuff, we'll be long gone, right? And then we'll just say, "Oh, bad! It shouldn't have been done." But if there's not an emergency declared,
Been said.
it seems like if the emergency hasn't been declared, it seems like you can't exercise that option, I guess you would call it. I'm not sure if that would be the right term, but
We remember we did declare an emergency under COVID that the VA was able to provide community services and that the communities could use VA facilities where necessary, as identified by the secretary. So it's interesting to see what's going to come out of this.
yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. COVID set a lot of precedents, did it? I mean, it made it like an open check to do about anything you wanted to because of COVID, right?
Comes out of this, we got a little bit more to look into it.
Yeah.
There's some people that are very interested in finding out some more on this. So I think we'll hear a lot more about this in the coming months.
Yeah, but you really got me thinking there. Like I say, the director of the CDC mandated that people couldn't collect rent, right? She's the one that said, "Oh, you can't start collecting rent. People can still live rent free." Not that what, like that's not how that works. It's that'd be as bad as like the VA directing how U.S. U.S. Food and Drug Administration makes decisions or something. It's like it has nothing to do with each other. But COVID did kind of give everyone a chance to really to do whatever they wanted to. I mean, with no controls. Trust me, I live in the state of New York. Look what they did here with people in nursing homes and everything else underneath Cuomo. I mean, they could do whatever. And we got Hochul trying to pass a law back through that allows her to quarantine and detain people in case there's another outbreak. She's been trying to get the second or third time now, tell the governor to have the power in the state of New York to detain and quarantine people without charges for as long as they want, with no ending, if they deem that they were infected with something that could be considered a pandemic or national outbreak. I mean, why don't they just set the freaking shower heads up and just walk us in there, right? I mean, and if you know what I'm talking about. I mean, this isn't much different than that. Just piling everyone onto train cars and sending them on to the quarantine camps. But yeah. Well, keep us up on that, Wolf, on how that goes. Or keep us up if you guys publish something, so we can reshare it for sure.
Absolutely, can do.
To watch.
I think this one is going to make a stir.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Hey, before we wrap up for the night, this went a little bit longer than I want, but we had 3 big topics to cover. Anything that you want to share with the viewers and listeners before we wrap up for the night?
Just the fact that I'm glad to be back. Just to let you know, as you know, I've been out for a little while for health reasons. I know we've been digging on the VA tonight, but I will say thank you very much to the folks at the VA, the fine job you did in saving my life. I did have a bit of a health scare that was treated by the VA and treated extraordinarily well. I will say that the doctors and nurses where I was treated were fantastic. I came through with flying colors. While it was these days a routine, years ago it was not nearly a routine, but it was something that could have gone very badly had I not had the procedure done. But, hats off to the VA, and thank you very much. I appreciate the doctors there very much.
Awesome. And a fine looking hat at that, my friend. That's the first time I've seen you in a little beachcomber fedora or whatever we would call that there. But
beach fedora,
that's
yes.
it. But looking mighty sharp. But hey, thank you so much, Will, for joining me tonight and coming on talking about this, man. You are a sharp dude when it comes to not only politics, but also the VA. And I'm glad you were able to come on the night and give us some of your knowledge and expertise there.
Thanks, Troy. I appreciate it. Anytime.
Yeah,
Love being on here.
yeah, bud. With that being said, thank you. Thank you to all our listeners and viewers who tuned in either live tonight or catch us later. Thank you for supporting us. Make sure you check out all of our sponsors, Alpha Elite Performance, where I'm going to be having Travis on real soon from there. Make sure you use the code Elite15, discount code to get 15% off. I just got an order in the other day. Code works well. Gear for Grunts. Red Rum Sport Fishing, where our buddy Toby, which we talked to the other night, you guys saw that on here, and boohammer.com. So thanks for our sponsors. Thanks for everyone for joining, and keep an eye out on our socials so that you can see when we post up other stuff. We're going to keep trying to put up shows interviews every couple of days or as much as we can. So thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, and we will wish everyone a good night. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and boohammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.